Hey, Rick Sayes here. Welcome to Season 4 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, recording here at the subterranean Rimrock Studios outside of Phys Ed, California. I have another great season of interviews with retailers, brand managers, executives, athletes, and others in the outdoor biz to share their stories, tips, advice, productivity tricks, and hacks you can use to take your career or business to the next level. Today's episode is brought to you in part by the Something About Nothing podcast. Think the Seinfeld show meets your favorite morning show. It's a few regular folks from outside Seattle, Washington, talking around the table about sports, the news of the day, and the absurdity of life. Something About Nothing is an entertaining variety show that covers all the stuff you want to talk about but aren't supposed to. Available wherever you listen to podcasts, including Spotify. Check it out today. Just search SOMETHIN about NOTHIN. You won't believe how fun listening to a show about nothing can be. Hey, welcome back. I'm excited to speak with Nate Hansen today. Nate is an active stay-at-home dad, recently turned marathoner. He tells us the unique way he got into marathons, and we talk about his upcoming adventure running the Arizona Trail. And thanks to Jason Lawrence from Vssl for connecting us. Enjoy. Hey, Nate, welcome to the show.
Hey, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to catch up with you. So what's the weather doing out there? I always like to check the weather around the world when I'm talking to folks.
Well, currently, I would say it's a bit disappointing, and not just in the sense of chilliness and a little bit of precipitation.
Did you guys get snow?
Just north of us,
okay.
Flagstaff got bombarded. We did not so much, but typically in the evenings, my evenings are picking up my kids, and they would love to go to the skate park. So and I'm not the skater anymore, or I guess never have been. Not wanting to break any bones in that manner, but so that requires me sitting on my ass near a coupling that's metal. So I do some pacing, or I will do some steps and working out or run around. But that's the extent of the weather.
Can't do that in rainy weather. Yeah. I just got back from Vegas. It rained for 2 days solid in Vegas. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Typically people don't complain because they're in a casino at that time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, most people that go to Vegas are in a casino. We tried to get out and walk a bit, but it was pretty challenging because we were in the show all day. But we survived.
Good.
Yeah.
Survivors in Vegas.
That's it. There you go.
That's a rarity.
I think anybody that's an outdoor person is just surviving in Vegas.
Yeah, exactly right.
So what was your first exposure to the outdoors? How did you get excited about the outdoors?
It's funny. It's I think that when we talk about the outdoors now, we have a sense of what that means to us, like as far as camping and hiking and whatnot.
Yeah.
My exposure to the outdoors, I think, was just through my childhood playing.
Okay.
I didn't have I never had video games ever. I think in college I got like a Sega Genesis and played that for about a month.
Yeah.
Played hockey until I got calluses on my thumbs and I was just done. But growing up outside playing kick the can, German spotlight. But my folks were really big in that. My mother was a Phys Ed teacher, so she always believed in a lot of exercise. My father, he got into running and then biking and then doing triathlons. So at the age of 14, I remember going on this thing called RagBrai. I don't know if anyone's heard of this.
Haven't heard of that, no.
Now it's this ride. It's a bike ride across Iowa, and it takes about a week. And it stands for the Register. This is the newspaper, the Des Moines Register.
Okay.
Register's annual great bike ride across Iowa, and the whole idea is you dip your tire in the Missouri River like on a Saturday, and then like the next week you dip your tire in the Mississippi. So you've traversed the entire state.
That sounds fun.
It was great. It was great exposure. You're working your ass off, turning your legs on a bike.
Right.
And aside from that, I think my dad took me backpacking in the wilderness, Shoshone National Park in Wyoming, when about that same time, and I was just hooked on being outside. Cool.
Did you have a traditional outdoor job? Did you ever work in outdoor retail or anything?
I didn't start working outdoor retail till last year, actually. After being a school teacher, our school closed down, and I had to scramble to find a job, and I guess essentially doing sales, but also education in the sense of you're you're educating people on the outdoors. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was a guide for this past year. But aside from that, my first outdoor job again was as a kid, like hoeing beans, baling hay,
A lot of people
working
have
on the
said that.
farm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I loved it. It's a great way of, you're doing something without the fluorescent lighting. You're getting sunburned, of course, but
Right, right. Where were you a guide?
excuse me.
Where were you a guide?
I was a guy here in Sedona.
Oh, what was the
So
shop? What was the
yeah,
shop?
the hike
The
house.
hike
I
house.
was there
Okay,
for about
cool.
a year, and yeah, I loved it. Just the outdoor retail is a different demon where you're talking about the outdoors and people are coming into a shop and you're talking about the
Yeah,
outdoors.
right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's this massive contrast. You
Yeah.
want to be out there, but the other 50% of it was were clients coming in and wanting to be on this excursion. So we take them anywhere from like 3 hour to 6 hour hike
Oh,
throughout
cool.
Sedona in the various wildernesses, and it was awesome because with that comes sharing the education of the flora, the fauna, the geology, the archaeology, and whatnot. And
Right.
it's fun educating people on it because then you yourself are researching tons of things so you can be informative.
Yeah, and that's a good way to get them hooked. Once they know more about it, they seem to want to continue to know more about it. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also that element of like people entering the unknown when
Right.
really,
Mm-hmm.
you're taking off to the parking lot, driving a mile to a trailhead, and then you're just doing like this loop. But to the people in New York City, they're like, I need somebody with me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I understand that danger element, but at the same time, anywhere I go now, I get a guide just for that information. It's worth it.
Oh
It
yeah.
is
Oh
totally
yeah.
worth it just
Yeah.
for the news.
I'm a big fly fisherman, and a buddy and I, we always do that. It's the first place we stop at a new area is the fly shop because there's nothing better than local knowledge.
Oh my God,
And
yeah,
the
that's
guides
exactly it.
just, yeah, they know the trails, they know the flies, they
Yeah.
know what's biting, they know what's open, what's not. Yep, local knowledge is
Yeah,
huge.
you're guaranteed to come back with something probably
Yeah,
too.
right, yeah. And how did you
Yes.
get into running marathons? You told me the story. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, so I wasn't necessarily the couch potato per se. But, I was always active, but active in the sense of like, doing a wind sprint down the field a couple times playing soccer with my kid, and then that's about it. But one night I was grading papers in our living room, and my wife was like on Facebook, and she glanced up to me and asked if I wanted to do a marathon, and it wasn't on my radar. It was in the sense of like, yeah, I want to do it as a bucket list. Maybe by the time I'm 50, I do a marathon,
Hmm.
and it's I barely beat the cutoff time. But and she said that, and I said, yeah, sure. And then she goes, how about you do it for a fundraiser for this nonprofit school that we co-founded? And I was like, that's a great idea. And she says, why don't you do it for the Sedona Marathon? And I said, again, great idea. Might as well. I don't have to travel for it. It's right here. And I go, when is that? And she says, it's in 3 weeks.
And you hadn't been running at all?
I hadn't, no. So the next
Oh
day I'm
my
like
God.
committed right there. And when I open my mouth, sometimes I put my foot in it, but this time I had to pull my foot out and get a running shoe on it. And the
Yeah,
next day
exactly.
I ran a mile, and then the day after that, 3 miles, and then 6, and then 10. I about died. And then, but by the time the marathon rolled around, I was ready, and then I was just hooked on long distance.
Cool. And this is the Running River School you guys founded? Is that the name of it?
Yeah, Running River School. It's a nonprofit Waldorf-inspired school that's located here in Sedona, Arizona, and we've been going on. This is our 6th year.
Wow, very good.
Yeah,
Congratulations. That's cool.
yeah. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
great.
And so then you kind of got into marathons, and somehow you got talked into doing something on the AZT Arizona Trail. Tell everybody about the Arizona Trail if they don't know what that is.
Yeah, so the Arizona Trail it's one of 11 national scenic trails in our nation,
Hmm.
and so it runs from the Mexican border to Utah. And obviously you could traverse it from Utah down to Mexico if you wanted to, but like the passages, there's 43 passages in the over 800 miles,
Wow.
and they run from Mexico up to Utah. There's 3 sections. They call it the southern, the central, and the northern section. It's just this miracle of a trail that traverses so many different mean, over 113,000 foot elevation gain when you go northbound in those 800 miles.
Wow.
It's like hiking Everest 4 times, obviously without the altitude.
Yeah, right.
But it also goes through so many different, climate changes and forest systems, and just the biodiversity alone is just incredible. So it's where a lot of people are talking about the Pacific Crest Trail or the Appalachian Trail or the Continental Divide, the 3 major ones. That the Arizona Trail right now is just this unprecedented, really difficult trail to tame.
Well, and I think people don't realize all the different flora and fauna. A lot of folks, anyway, in Arizona. I mean, it's a pretty unique state. All states have unique fauna, flora, and trails, but this is pretty extreme. From hot heat in the south near Tucson to big mountains in Flag and Grand Canyon, right?
Yeah, a lot of people come. They come to Arizona with the whole idea that they're going to be golfing.
Yeah,
and then they arrive to Sedona or Flagstaff, and there's 10 inches of snow in Flag, and so. Yeah, it's diverse, and I think that's if you're going to hike it, you have to get on the trail. If you're going northbound, it's like March, April are the windows. Otherwise, it's too hot, and if you leave too early, you might get the snow. So,
right.
And also, if you're heading southbound, you got to leave around October. There are these windows. You can do all these day hikes and all these different passages, but to do a through hike of it, it takes some planning.
And so how did you go from running marathons to the AZT? How'd that come about?
Craziness, I guess. So when I did the marathon, I just got hooked on long distances, but I just absolutely despised the asphalt, like the road, just beat up my knees. And it seemed like the terrain just didn't change for miles and miles, and you could almost fall asleep. It was hypnotic. So I started running trails, and then I did my first ultra on the Continental Divide. Matter of fact, and when I finished, the race director was right there, handing me like this hand carved spoon. It wasn't like the mass produced metal.
Yeah,
it was something that was hand carved for the event, and she congratulated me, and then she said, "There's IPA, wine, and burgers over here." And I just are you kidding me? Like my first marathon was here's the Cliff Bar, here's the metal, here's the water. See ya. The ultra was there's some beer and wine and burgers, chow down, and just bullshit about your experience. So I did, and I just got addicted to that. I guess that atmosphere, and then the distance, and then also like pushing through just pain. I think a lot of times, and this is just the metaphor, I think, in life, people reach difficulty and they stop, and there's some glory if you just push through it. There's a lot of, whether it's the physical, the endorphins kicking in, or whether it's the emotional, and maybe even breaking through some tears and stuff to realize that you actually can accomplish something, or something's really not that bad. So,
the major success might be right around the next bend, right? Just
absolutely.
Push through that, and you might hit the home run.
And or you might pull a hamstring. That's the gamble, right? You just came from Vegas, you know about the gamble. So it's the challenge. It's the hitting the wall and then finding out that you can keep going. So then I was asked again, I guess long story short, what are you going to do? Are you going to run another marathon? I'm like, well, no, I've already done that. I've proved that I can do that. No one's going to contribute any money to that. So I said, let's do a 24-hour run. So last year we did a 24-hour run, and I raised some more money, which was really nice. But that's where I reached like mile 42, and I thought I was going to just die. And then my father was there to stop, and he had some pizza.
Oh, nice.
And so my father and my middle son was there, and they loaded me up. I downed like 4 slices of pizza and then took off again, and realized, wow, there's no real science to this.
How did that stay down? Did that stay down?
I loved it. And then later on in the evenings, like around midnight, I made sure that Domino's was open, and I got another another load in, so like you want to eat healthy, and then all that stuff kind of goes out the windows when you need something. So anyway,
right.
I did the 24-hour, and then again, it came the question again, do another 24-hour. I'm like, no, I've done that. I'm not going to do a 48-hour. I'm going to do the AZT. And again, it was one of those things, someone brought it up, and I'm like, yeah, sure. And I don't really think before I say, yeah, sure.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Say yes. You never know what'll happen.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You never know. Yeah, that's almost the scary thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's cool. So, what do you think will be your biggest challenge? What time of year are you going to do this?
So I decided, my eldest son, he's a naval aviator, and he gets his wings. There's a celebration. He gets his
Cool.
wings pinned March 22nd. I was originally going to leave mid-March, but I'm not at all going to miss that ceremony.
Yeah, that's
So I'll
huge.
be there for that. Come back, and I'm thinking April 1st sounds like the perfect. We're getting enough snowfall and everything that more likely there's going to be snow up there even in April.
Yeah.
So April 1st, fool or not, I'm gonna
that's appropriate. Yeah. So what do you
it
think?
does work out.
What do you think are going to be some of your biggest challenges? Is it going to be snow and weather, or shouldn't be weather? Of course, you might get some rain and some thunder showers that time of year. No, or is that more? That's more monsoon season in August for you guys.
I think it's all open to it. It's going to be a crapshoot. So
Yeah.
I think like the biggest challenge, aside from like the weather, I can, I'm prior service. I've sat in a foxhole in plenty of crap weather.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I can muster this out, but the logistics is what I was really kind of worried about. But the Arizona Trail Association, and also their information is amazing. Whether it's their book that's just been out by Matt Nelson in the Trail Association, then there's also Atlas guides, their gut hook guides. I don't foresee that's just an app that I can use without Wi-Fi that shows where there's water stops and where there's all these things.
Yeah, that'll be helpful.
I think it'll be set. I wanted to say that isolation would be the toughest thing, but I mean, I'll ask you this. I mean, have you ever, I'm not sure of your age, but have you ever, you're old. We're all old.
I'm not that old. I feel old though.
Did you have the Vision Quest? Did you have the ceremony?
I never did that. No, I've got a bunch of friends that have done that, but I have never done that. Yeah.
See, I haven't either, and so now I'm looking at this isolation as a necessity. God, this is my Vision Quest, even though it's happening at age 44.
Yeah.
God knows what I'm going to be experiencing out there alone.
Right.
But quite honestly, I think the most challenging thing for myself, and this is just knowing myself, and I think there's even attributes of like depression in my life, is the fear of disappointing people. It's one thing to go out and do this trail, right, and need to come back, like you roll your ankle and you're like, I can't do this, or it just sucks. You're like, this is horrible. I've got people that have contributed over $17,000 so far.
Wow, good for you.
So I can't.
You can't disappoint them.
Right. Yeah, and so there's that. I want to do this well.
Yeah, and you gonna run it or walk it, or you just gonna hike it? What's your plan?
Well, I went into this like just guns blaring. Like I said. They asked how long it would take, and I calculate. I just, for some reason, this is no shit, I just said 3 weeks, and
wow.
the record is 15 days, and for the supported, and the record for self-support is 19 days, by Heather Anish, and that's crazy. That's
fast.
So I thought I could do that. But that would be averaging 40 plus miles a day.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So I'm looking now at a marathon a day, and even that seems like a lot. But I'm going to be running the majority of it. But the thing that makes me realize that this is completely possible, it's conceivable, is that I've got nothing else to do. Like, I'm waking up, I'm
That's
making my
true.
food,
That's
and I got nothing else to do but to move forward.
yeah,
Right?
and you'll have longer days, so it won't be short days, so you have a lot of
Yeah,
time to get it done. Yeah,
that's true.
yeah.
Thanks for that. That's true. Yeah.
What kind of gear are you going to be carrying? You gonna have a backpack, or you gonna have people meet you along the way? What's that going to look like?
Well, I want this to be self-supported,
Okay.
so I'll be carrying most all of my gear and be mailing out using a lot of the guidance from the Arizona Trail
Mm-hmm,
Association and
mm-hmm.
also from guides to where I'm going to be sending things. But I'm working actually with Garage Grown Gear on finding like my big four, what pack that's going to be, what the tent's going to be, the sleeping bag, and making it ultra light. Um, Other gear that I've Merrill's throwing me some shoes and apparel, which
Mm-hmm.
is really nice. Solomon is throwing me another pair of shoes because God knows I'll go through the
Oh yeah,
first
you'll
pair.
go some. Yeah, you'll go
Regardless.
through some shoes. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, Jumper Threads has been amazing, and they're throwing me base layers and socks, and even Vssl. Jason Lawrence, who's a buddy of mine, has connected me to a lot of outdoor retailers, and Vssl's pulling through with like this beautiful utility flashlight shelter, and I could put water purification tabs inside the casing and just tons of things.
Oh,
So
cool.
as far as the gear, I just want it to be super light and then be able to get to those water caches and those mail drops and be able to get to them. So I think that's like, again, if you go back to like the thing that I'm most nervous about is just making sure that I can get to these places and pick
Yeah.
up the food that I mail out. That it's that whole when when Amazon doesn't deliver in the time that they say they're going to deliver, I sure as hell hope that my package is there when I need food.
That's right. That's a good point. Yeah. So and so got
If
sick.
Amazon can't pull through it, then can anybody
Yeah,
else?
yeah. So and so got sick. He didn't make the drop that day. Ooh, that'd be bad. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have to carry a lot of water, or what's the water like along the trail? I mean, it's the southern part of it's got to be pretty few and
Oh
far
yeah,
between, I would think.
yeah, it is. And then you're a lot of times you're dependent on whatever there's even maybe some livestock troughs and stuff. So
Oh
you always
wow.
want to make sure you've got like purification with you.
What are you
So whether it's
using? What are you using for that for purification?
there's going to be some water purification tabs that I'll use,
Uh
and
huh.
then there's also a Grail.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
Those are good.
and
Yeah.
I want to use that, yeah. And I want to just, and you should always, I mean, that's going to be my backup. But I'm also just totally dependent on the Arizona Trail Association again, as far as like the people that are in charge of those passages. And then there's volunteers, the trail angels,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
could be coming out and just dropping off water, or you know whether it's my name's on it or they're doing that for anybody that's coming out on that trail. And that's another thing that's really cool about that, but a little bit dangerous, is it's not as well known as the PCT or the AT.
Right.
So whereas water drops might be more common in those places, maybe not so much on this. Who knows?
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, and I would think this might be a little bit off season too, right? Is it a little early in the year, or is it there'll be
Right.
other
Well,
people on the trail?
I think there will probably be by April. There should be other people on the trail, and
Uh-huh.
be quite just politically speaking. I mean, you're looking at the Arizona border. If there's water drops, anybody
Right, right, yeah, right, yeah,
anybody's taking the water. It's a free for all, right?
yeah.
It's
That's
not
true.
just for me.
Yeah,
So
interesting. So, who are some of the other folks that have helped you along the way, other than
you know,
the Arizona Trail Association? Do you have any locals, or some of the folks from the
oh
school going
God,
to help you
yeah,
out? Yeah.
tons. Yeah. So what's really nice about this is a grassroots community. So, and we're a nonprofit school, so we base everything into committees. We've got an outreach committee, a location finding committee when we grow to another location, and the fundraising committee is the one that I'm on, and
Mm.
they're really helping me get the word out. There's Megan Kinchelow, Genevieve Evergreen, I mean the Emily Snelling. These ladies reach out, write press releases, and
Oh, cool.
and then another gentleman at the school, again, Jason Lawrence, who works for Vssl.
Mm-hmm.
He's reached out to tons of outdoor retailers to see if they'd be willing to just share some gear for like the trade of like a for Instagram or things like that, or to get their
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
contact
Mm-hmm.
with. So
Promo stuff.
it's been amazing.
Yeah.
Daniel Redlinger from Jumper Threads. He's prior service like myself, so he's throwing me base layers and socks.
Cool.
And what's really great is too, they'll put a code, so if anyone buys that, then a certain percentage of sales comes back to the school too.
Oh, cool. That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Lloyd from Garage Grown Gear is going to be whatever we decide together as what to be the best pack and the best big four. Then that'll be at wholesale costs.
Nice.
And then just locally, I live right adjacent to Los Abregados Resort and Spa, and the Sedona Spa's thrown me a 3-month membership to go and train and use their sauna. And when the weather's like,
you're gonna need that when you get back.
Oh my God, that is absolutely sure. That's for sure. But probably like the biggest supporter I have to say is my wife. She's not only the principal of the school, but she's the one that's given the blessing for being gone this amount of time while taking care of should be taking care of the kids, and that's typically my job.
Yeah. Well, that'd be cool. Yeah. Sounds exciting. What, you're gonna go through some shoes, I'll bet.
I right now I wear the Ultra, the Lone Peak 4, and because I've got it seems like after so many miles my foot has actually just collapsed or expanded. So those are great, but Solomon is throwing me a pair, and then Merrill, they typically fit well. I just got to narrow down things with sizing because you don't want, God forbid, you get any blisters.
Oh my God, yeah. That'll be brutal. And what other outdoor activities do you participate in?
I think, living in Sedona, there's probably the big three are hiking, trail running, and mountain biking. I've done a little bit of like climbing. I don't have the gear, so I do the bouldering. But to be honest, I would love to say hiking is the premier one, but I'll go for a little ways and then I get so bored.
Really?
I'll get so bored. I just need to take off running. So that's the tough thing. It's, to be honest with, it's like I'm ADD. Like even right now I'm pacing.
I do that when I talk on the phone too, though. So that's okay.
Oh my God. Yeah. My mind just won't.
Well, that'll be good though, because like you say, when you get up in the morning on the trail, you just got to get on it. That's all you got to do all day. So that might be good. Yeah,
I got nothing else to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna run. That might be good.
Yeah, might as well run for a little bit. So.
Yeah, might as well run all day. Do you have any suggestions or advice for folks wanting to get into thru hiking or run? Don't start off the couch running marathons.
Yeah. You know what? Here's the thing, and I think it might be contrary to any other advice. I guess I'm kind of a contrarian, but is not to buy in so much into, as much as, I know that we're talking about the outdoor biz and everything, but I see a lot of people. When I started running, I had to make shorts and I didn't think I even had running shoes. I just had comfortable shoes on. I took off, and then I'm like, I have to, I didn't have anything. And what I've seen when I have competed is I see some people going over the top on all of this gear that they really don't need. So I would say, please just go basic. Don't plan for that 50K or that 50 miler or the 100 miler when you're really not comfortable doing the 10K.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. I got that advice when I started the podcast. I think it was Tim Ferriss who said, you know what? Don't go whole hog and spend a bunch of money on equipment and gear. Do 2 or 3 episodes, see if you like it with the gear you have, and that's true for anything. Because no doubt you can spend money. People will take your money and sell you the equipment for whatever it is you want to do. Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly right. So I think that's good advice. Tim Ferriss is exactly right, because you got your feet wet.
Yeah.
Right. And look where you're at. And then now it's one of those things that you're like thinking bigger and bigger and bigger, but you're not out a wad of cash and kicking yourself.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's a good perspective. I think you're right on with that on the outdoor gear too. If you're going to go backpacking, go on an overnight, around the down at the local park, state park or something, before you commit to the PCT or whatever it is.
Oh, absolutely.
You know.
And I think also another thing is, as much as I fell in love with the camaraderie of like being around a campfire after running 50 miles and talking to people about it, you know, that can be a bit draining too. So be careful of that. It shouldn't define you. You know, that's the thing. I know that there's tons of athletes that we idolize through Instagram and through Facebook and whatnot, but it makes me wonder that if when they're done training, the last thing that they want to do is talk about their training, you know?
Unless they're professional, and then they get paid for it. So
then you got a point there. You got a point there. But like I've gone mountain biking, and afterwards you go to the mountain bike shop and you end up talking to the mountain bikers about mountain biking.
Yeah.
And it becomes like, oh my God, I need to diversify.
Yeah, so, I'm the same way. Yeah, exactly. So what do you have for daily routines to keep your sanity? You meditate, obviously you get a lot of exercise, play with the kids, that must be fun.
I would love to say I meditate, but as you know, I have a busy mind. So I think that's probably the most important thing for me to try to do. But typically I wake up in the morning, as it stands right now, I'm the stay-at-home dad. Our roles have completely flipped in the household where I'm not working and now my wife is, and so I'm taking care of the kids and getting them ready for school and then taking them to school. And then in that window, I do a lot of training. I would love to tell you my diet is just like downing eggs and coffee and avocados, but typically it's finding windows of getting in 2 to 3 hours training. And if I can't, like if it's a half day with my kids, when I have my kids, I'm super focused on them.
Great.
But I've found the opportunity to take them to the skate park. And since Sedona has an extensive trail system, there's a couple mile trail that weaves in and around the skate park. So I can drop them off there and run laps and still keep up.
Oh, cool. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's turned out beautifully.
That's great. And do you have any favorite books, or do you give books as gifts very often?
Oh God. Yeah. Well, I used to be before I got into the outdoor retail and before I even got into trail running, so to speak, I was a literature teacher.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
You asked me the right question. I think the one I just finished not too long ago was Fernando Pessoa's The Book of Disquiet. It's a lesser known, that's for sure. A friend of mine turned me on to it, and Pessoa was this Portuguese writer that had like 75. He wrote underneath like 75 different names. Wow. Poetry, so nobody really knew who he was, and he wasn't doing it for fame. He was just writing to write. And the Book of Disquiet is all of these notes that he has just taken that found on his desk, and it was published posthumously. So
oh wow, interesting.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes from him was live life, don't be lived by it.
I like it. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out. Well, we'll link to that in the show notes. How about any favorite outdoor gear purchase under $100? You have a favorite piece of gear?
You know what? Again, I'm going back to, I'm going to give you
you can be more than one. You can give me more than one.
You know, I'm going to give you two.
Okay. Yep. Cool.
Well, first of all, I want to say, I think anytime you're getting into it, there's this consignment shop in Flagstaff, SMR, Snow Mountain River. And that's where I go. And anytime I'm trying out, like I just taught my son how to snowboard, we went there. And again, you're getting stuff on the cheap to test the waters, right? Before you
plug that whole bunch of money. Exactly. Yeah.
So, but this is the answer that I'm giving. Under $100, the best gear that I have that has been motivational. It's something I'll have forever. I've got 2 tattoos. Actually, I've got 3 now on my arms that I see whenever I'm running or whenever I'm hiking. And it's like the biggest motivator of my entire life. The one on my left wrist is LYTFAB, and it's in my mother's handwriting. and it means love you to forever and back.
Oh, cool.
And the one on my right is DWPYGL, and I reached out to and that comes from my father. It's in a text font. I reached out to my father when I knew I was going to run a marathon, because he'd done the Boston, he'd done ultras and all this stuff. So I asked him.
Oh, so it's in your blood.
I guess. And here's the thing: is I didn't even think about asking him till like all these people would say, you got to drink pickle juice, you got to take ice baths, you got to do all this. And I know me, and I'm like, I'm not going to drink pickle juice. Right. I'm not going to take ice baths. I just want to run this and be done. And I told him I was doing a marathon. What's the advice? And he texted back 3 lines: drink water, pace yourself, good luck. That was it. I
love it. Yeah.
And so that's just the simplicity. I think that it boils down to, and under $100, there you go.
There you go. That's cool. I like it. Yeah, that's cool. I love both of those. Those are excellent. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying the third one, the third tattoo. I just got this recently. Is Just Breathe. And it's a Pearl Jam song, and it just it's right there, and that's actually in my wife's handwriting, because they're also a wedding song, but it's very simple.
And that's good for a lot of things. Just stop, take a breath, slow down. Yeah, that's awesome.
Slow down.
Yeah. As we go to wrap up here, is there anything else you want to ask or say of our listeners?
You know what? I guess the one thing I've noticed about like these endurance events, and maybe I'm wrong, or what I'd love to see more out of this is people doing these things for causes. And I know there's a lot of like Susan G. Komen, the breast cancer walks, and there's a lot of great things that are done for great causes. I would love to see more of it. And I'm not what I would call necessarily an endurance athlete. I'm just your average guy doing a not so average thing. But I know that I would definitely be more involved in these things when people were doing like the reciprocity of it all. Like instead of somebody coming up and asking for money for a cause, like, what are you doing? And you're doing something outrageous. And that just, I don't know. I want to invite more people to do things like this, but when they do something, attach a cause to it and just raise some awareness for whatever you believe in, because that takes some courage too.
Yeah.
I could have chosen being doing this as a veteran, or even quite honestly as somebody who struggles with depression, right? But I want to do this for the school, and I just hope it.
I think there's a lot of that goes on, but I don't think it gets widely shared. I had a guy, Pete Ripmaster, on this show a few episodes ago. He's the winner of the Iditarod last year, the self-supported Iditarod, and he does it for he raises a lot of money for various things. Yeah, he has some depression issues, and he really powers through them. That was a great episode, super motivational. Then another friend of mine, his wife's brother was killed. Navy SEAL was killed in action, and they do a huge event for him every year on the anniversary, kind of a big rock hike thing and stuff. It's pretty good. So there's a lot of it that goes on, but I don't think it gets widely shared. Very local, right? I mean, it's.
I mean, just the fact that you have this on the podcast that's a huge start for people, and people are doing things obviously for themselves, but to truly be altruistic and do it for others. That's just get
a little bit of wider audience. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So how can people find you if they want to ask you questions or follow up in April when you're done?
If they want to ask questions, they can reach out through email at runningforrunningriver@gmail.com.
Okay.
There is a blog. There's a dedicated website that's for the fundraiser called runningforrunningriver.com.
Cool.
And you can see that the same Running for Running River on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. Well, we'll link to all that in the show notes for sure.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and then we'll have to have you back on when you're done, see how it went.
Oh, God, that'd be great. You know what? We already set the date, so maybe it's a little bit of a carrot.
There you go. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we'll follow up then. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on the show. It's been great chatting with you.
Thanks for having me, Rick. I really appreciate it.
All right, take it easy.
All right, take care.
Bye. All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Nate Hansen. You can catch up with Nate via email at runningforrunningriver@gmail.com and his blog runningforrunningriver.com and Running for Running River on Facebook and Instagram. You'll find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episode/145. I'd be grateful if you visit iTunes and give us a rating and review. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Outdoor Biz Podcast. And also be sure to share this episode with a friend. Thanks for listening. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. I've used Audible for many years now. I'm on the road a lot, and Audible allows me to enjoy the great books I discover or are recommended by friends. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/theoutdoorbizpodcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Start your 30-day free trial with Audible today. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com where you'll find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. Until next time, be sure to make time to get outside.